In this video, we're going to be completing the square. So we're going to be kind of using information that we learned in the last video by simplifying radicals and solving when we have an x squared, and using complete the square method to make this a little bit easier. So the actual rule for completing the square goes like this. X squared plus bx plus that middle b value divided by 2 squared is equal to, in factored form, x plus b over 2 squared. The rules of how we would do this in order to use this to set up an equation would go like this. First, you're going to want to get your quadratic equation to look like in this format. So you'll want the x squared and the x term to be on one side, and you're going to want the number or constant value to be on the other. So this is going to be different from how we usually want to get everything to one side. Here we want that lone number to be on the other side of the equation. From here, you're going to take that middle b value, you're going to divide it by 2 and square it. That's going to be the term that you're going to use to complete the square. And you're going to add that to both sides. And we want to add it to both sides because we're not changing the value of the equation. We want to keep it the same. So if we're going to add it to the left side, we have to add it to the right. Next, you're going to put the trinomial in factored form. So you could think of the trinomial as the equation in standard form, and then you want to put it to factored form, so x plus or minus that number b over 2 squared in parentheses. And finally, once we do that, we'll be able to take the square root and solve for x. So let's see how these steps would play out in an actual problem. Here we have the equation x squared plus 6x minus 3 equals 0, and we want to solve it by completing the square. So going through these steps, first I want to get that 3 to the other side of the equation before I do anything else. So that's a minus 3, so the opposite would be adding 3 to both sides. When I do that, I'm going to be left with x squared plus 6x equals 3. Now this is going to be the complete the square part. So I'm going to expand this equation a little bit, and I'm going to need to add a value on both sides to make this a perfect square trinomial. How I'm going to do that is my key here is that middle value of 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then I'm going to add 3 squared to both sides. So 3 squared, as I know, is 9. So I can just kind of reduce this to say 9. So now I'm left with x squared plus 3x plus 9 equals 3 plus 9. So from here, I'd want to factor this. So you could think of this as, all right, what two numbers multiply to give me 9, add to give me 6? It would be just 3 times 3 and 3 plus 3. So I can simplify this by saying x plus 3 squared equals, and on the other side I'm going to reduce that to be 12. So from here, now I can actually solve. So what I'm going to do in this step is, to get the x out of the parentheses, I need to take the square root on both sides. So I'm going to take the square root here, take the square root here. This will leave me with x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. From here, I can see that the square root of 12 reduces to 4 times the square root of 3. So that's going to reduce to 2 square root of 3. So I'll be left with x plus 3 equals plus or minus 2 square root of 3. And last but not least, I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. So my final answer here is going to be x equals negative 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 3. And I'm done.